tax assessor that goes out and measures and checks out every time there's a building goes up. And that's put on the tax roll the following year after that. And so, I mean, I don't know why that it's such a big issue to talk about new construction or, you know, new business. Because it's automatically being done already through our tax assessor.
Well, it's because we have P-TEL, and that's your area of expertise, Terry.
That's capped.
P-TEL.
Do what now?
That is why it
That's
is
capped,
classified. We're just using new property as a term. Yes, even before P-TEL existed in this county, first-time property, new property, whatever you want to call it, was picked up. That is new. It's over and above what was assessed the prior year. But in terms of P-TEL, it's called new property. It is, your calculations are based on new property. Department of Revenue looks at it as new property. It's just a term. It's nothing, I don't know how to describe it. We used to call it first-time property.
Basically, what it amounts to is something to confuse people.
Yeah. Well, that's the property.
Well, the whole
tax.
tax process does that.
Yeah, it's confusing and hard to explain.
And is new property, can we have more definition, is new property a new owner?
No,
Does that mean it's
just structure.
this structure?
Yes, if it's like a split of land and we've created a new parcel, say we've reclassed 10 acres of your farmland into residential, we can't, and it will be valued higher because it's no longer farmland, that does not go into the new property calculation. New property is never land.
And never a new owner?
No,
So if there is a new owner, if the exemptions fall off that everybody's talked about here today, there should be no increase in the property tax.
well, if you had a new owner and they didn't live in the property, are you talking about a house?
What, let's say you lost, you mentioned owner occupied exemption, there was the veterans, I believe, and what else?
Senior citizen?
Yeah, but is that a freeze or is that an exemption?
There's two.
Two.
There's the regular senior citizens homestead, automatic reduction. There's a senior freeze, which is only a benefit if your property increases in value over time. And then you're frozen at the prior year's value of the first year you became eligible. So say we have some seniors that are benefiting still from the first year of that exemption, which was 94. So we have some seniors frozen at 1993's assessed value. They're saving hundreds of dollars, $700, $800, because they're paying on a value from 1993.
Does a property owner that lives out of the county, does he pay exactly the same rate as the same property that's owned by someone that resides in the county?
The tax rate's a tax rate, doesn't matter if you live in the county or out of the
The
county.
only exemption would be if he lived in a house.
If you lived in the, whatever county you live in is where you get your homeowner's exemption.
I've been told that all my life, for absentee landlords, that they pay a higher rate than we do. That's not correct.
It's
Well,
just
they
the fact
do.
that they're not getting that.
That's rental property.
And another thing, we always get told that on the farm from someone in town that they pay higher taxes on their houses in town than we do in the country, but you say that's not true.
It really has to do with where, what taxing bodies you pay into overall. People pay to different school districts. People pay, there are how many, Terry, how many different tax rate groups in the county? I mean, some people pay into Lip Creek, some people pay into,
There's so many different combinations that tax codes, because of where you live, it can be, just take for instance, you can live in the city of Anna, and I live outside of city limits. I don't pay the city of Anna taxes, but that would be additional money I would have to pay that the individuals that live in the city limits have to pay that I don't have to pay. Someone could live in Cobb in the same way. It depends on what your schools or your tax districts are asking for. what your total base is. And the simplest way I can explain the whole process is if you've got 100 people that are paying taxes, and all your school districts are asking for $100. Now, we use those 100 people as the basis of tax, the amount of tax dollars. And all your taxing districts are asking for $100, each person's gonna pay $1. That's what we're talking about when we're picking up new property. If you only had 50 people, or the next year we picked up additional 10 people, you had 110 people, splitting that $100, your taxes go down. But most of the time, the tax districts ask for more money every year. I mean, it's not just the county, it's the schools too, and some of them are unlimited. They don't have, they're not subject to PTEL. We can only ask, no matter what we ask for, if we ask for 200% increase, we can only get whatever that new property generates that's put on there, plus the CPI, which is 2.1%. That's why we look at this and we say we're asking for 8%, because we don't ask for more than what we know we're going to get. We can't do that, because we can ask for 200% increase and we're not going to get it. So they try to estimate whatever they can estimate, as close as they can estimate, just to get what they know they can get, because they can't get more than that, because the county is subject to PTEL. County property lines are county lines. It's not like the school districts or other districts that maybe go over into non-PTEL county that aren't subject to the PTEL. They're not subject to tax rates. They're only subject to maximum rates that are set by the state or set by referendum in their counties for those taxing districts.
Terry brought up a very good point there, that for this truth in taxation, that we're asking for more so that we can get what is allowed to us. Does that make sense? Because if we estimate low, then and it comes in higher, we can't capture that money
Ever.
so forever. So that's, again, for this hearing, for the truth in taxation, we estimate higher so that we can get what's paid in, because we can only get what's allowed to us anyway. So I know that as Bobby said in his opening, that in the paper, oh my gosh, this looks horrible. But we're estimating so that we can get what's paid in, no more, no less. Well, yes, not less. We're getting it so that we can get what's actually paid in, because that's all we can get.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to go back to the abatement because I'm kind of confused on that, and I have been since it was issued. How much is that, excuse me, going, and you'll have to bear with me because I really don't understand it, but how much is that costing the county for the 10 years that it, and how much is that then going, the county and the schools, and then how much of that do the other businesses have to make up for that?
That was all actually worked out before I wasn't a part of how that was worked out, but that property was a church property that wasn't assessed in the beginning.
Property was paying no taxes at the time.
But it
because
could be
was a
now.
church. It could be, and it's going to be.
In 10 years.
Well, I don't remember the exact way it is set up, 10 years or less, but flip that over. You ask how much the school's losing on it. If that business had left here and other communities were trying to get them to come to their community, okay, they had to assure us and the city of Anna both, we both were involved in it. They were going to keep the jobs they already had. They were going to add 20 or 25 more jobs, which they have to come and give us a report and show us that's what's going on. If those people would have left here and went to another community, the school districts would have lost big time. We would have lost big time. So it was a decision made to enhance them, to stay here, and expand, which they have done. So overall, with more people employed, again, somebody made the comment a while ago, more people going into Walmart and spending money here, we are actually gaining money little by little until the taxes kick in.
Personally, I don't see any problem with abatement.
I mean, it's
I think
not
it's a good-
something, it's not something that you throw out there for everybody to do.
But you got it, I mean, it's a good attraction to bring new business in, and we all gain by doing that, you know, by
I mean, that
other
business
taxes and employment.
There's so much underneath all of that that you don't see, or the public doesn't see, that is making money for the community.
But I don't see where, you know, in the specifics we're talking about here, about, you know, over in Anna, that particular business, how it would affect anything in taxes, because they weren't collecting taxes anyway.
Well, she's
So-
right, if
Yeah.
we hadn't done it, they would have been paying taxes now.
Absolutely.
But, again.
They might not have been here.
You've got to figure in the other taxes and the spending power and the jobs. I mean, you know, if you wanna let 30 jobs go somewhere else, it's gonna be
Oh, I
a whole
think it's
lot less.
win-win.
It's gonna be a whole lot more hurtful than them not paying taxes for a few years. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it to you, but that's the reason it was done. It was a joint decision between the city of Anna and us.
And the schools.
And the
And the
schools. The schools had to approve this. We couldn't just do it on our own. The school boards had to approve it also, because, again,
Actually, the schools in Anna had approached us.
Right.
Because they were in favor of it and then approached us.
so, that's it in a nutshell, so.
I will say that the sales tax is something we can take a look at.
Absolutely.
And if, you know, I've always been a believer, take things to the voters and let them decide. They're the ones that can make the decision on things. If you guys would like to help and serve on the committee to try to get something put together, we'd appreciate that. And, you know, we'll get with Terry and see when our deadlines are to get things on the ballot and try to get something worked out.
Bobby, you said a lot of these rates were set by the state. So if we all pass a sales tax, what's the guarantee that our taxes, we're gonna see that relief on our real estate taxes?
Well, we'd have to actually do research in the statutes and see what is available to us to do in the first place. I know you've had a bad experience at 911 from legislation being passed and then the state taking a good portion of that. We just have to do the research and see what's allowable to us that we can get.
I think that'd be interesting to know whether I would be in support of, or my tax is gonna stay the same, plus I'm gonna pay an increased sales tax.
The thing.
As a business owner with no exemption.
I think the biggest thing is that I was talking about even with the sales tax was, being that the county is financially, in deficit, that's the purpose of having an increased, sales tax is for that purpose, because, I understand we're $400,000 deficit now?
It's, Angie, you got an updated figure on that? It's closer
Bobby,
to,
Bobby, a budget deficit and debt are not the same.
are different, yeah.
The county's in the best financial shape it's been in decades. It's a budget deficit because the expected growth of expenses year over year from last year to next year is greater than the amount of money you anticipate bringing in revenues within that one fiscal year. So if the growth continues at this pace and revenues continue at this pace, expenses grow and revenues are flat, that's what creates a one-year deficit. There's no debt.
No, there's no debt. We're not in debt.
Well, my understanding is it depends on what accounts you're looking at. Is that correct? Is it based on the different accounts? Some accounts are not being balanced while others are, but in your general revenue, your total, you've got enough money to run on, but you're using money out of a different account to take care of general expenses.
No,
No.
that's not accurate.
anything else?
I just want to make a comment and thank everyone for coming. I think this has been very healthy, and I'm pleased to see people here that, that have questions and want to know, that come to find out, because this is where you find out. And I just appreciate everybody coming.
I do too.
And if anybody needs any further explanation about how the rates are cut or taxes are extended, they're welcome to come to the county clerk's office, and I'll sit down with you and explain and show you from year to year what they are and how we're limited by PTEL. We actually will actually have a tax computation sheet that goes through where we cut those rates, and then PTEL actually comes in and says, you're limited, you cannot go to that rate. So it cuts us back down. So, and those rates apply to everybody the same. The only difference is your assessed value and your exemptions that you can or cannot get. But I'll be happy to sit down with anybody in the office and go through the actual process. I'm sure Darren and Tammy will be the same way. I mean, we want everybody to understand how this works, and it's a very, very complicated process that we have to go through every year to get those tax bills out. It takes a lot of work and a lot of understanding of the laws to do that, and we do it every year. And they change the laws, and they had to change different exemptions, so we have to try to keep up on that. So it's hard for us to do also. Luckily, we have software that helps us do our job, and it actually calculates those rates, and then we check those rates by hand to make sure they're correct. But it's a very complicated process, but I'm willing to spend the time with anyone that wants to come into the office and talk about that, and to try to get a better understanding of how that operation works.
Eric, your example you used on the high school, I'm assuming it's a state, but why is Alexander County not subject to the same rules Union County?
The voters in Union County voted in the property tax extension limitation law, which is PTEL. Our voters voted that in. Down in Alexander County, Pulaski County, they didn't vote that.
When does that come up for a vote?
Pardon?
When does that rate?
It depends on the voters.
If they never,
If they never,
yeah, might never.
it may have never been voted on, because they didn't, the taxpayers didn't push for that in that county.
I don't think that is the case, I don't think they ever put it up for.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Never did.
Well, what is the advantage and disadvantage of not, being there and not?
PTEL?
Yes.
PTEL for county government is a slow death. Because, as the treasurer said, as expenditures go up, as far as our revenues, we are capped. We are limited on what we can do. So we're plateauing while our expenditures are going up. And for us, I've been in office for 5 years, and I have fought it for 5 years. It's a slow death for government, because we are capped on what monies we can capture.
But it's not an issue of the rate, it's an issue of the aggregate, which is why this notice is so scary. We're not talking about an 8% increase in the rate, we're talking about the aggregate ability for the county to grow as the businesses and as the properties grow in.
Absolutely correct.
So if we're capped in the aggregate that we can collect, we can't catch up with the expenses that it takes to operate.
The advantage or disadvantage is in who's looking at it and how they're looking at it. As far as we look at it, it's a disadvantage to us because we can't capture any more money. We're limited on what we can capture. For some voters in the community, they might look at it as an advantage because then we can't raise it. So they might look at it as an advantage to them because, hey, my taxes, they're limited on what they can do for us, and that's a good thing in their eyes. But in reality, it's a slow death. And I don't know if that answered your question on advantages and disadvantages. It's in the eyes of the beholder.
The original intent was to protect property tax payers from seeing a huge increase in their bill just because their property was getting more valuable. That's the intent. Now, whether or not that's actually happening in counties that have adopted it, who knows?
It hasn't been our friend.
One of the main things that hurts the county that is PTEL County is, and I'm going to go back to the county that's not, you have certain things, you've got liability insurance, workman's comp, social security. For counties that are not under PTEL, those are not capped. Whatever the county needs to pay their liability insurance premiums, their retirement fund, their social security fund, their liability insurance premiums have no cap. Whatever they need, if they need $1 million this year for that, they can put that on there. A PTEL county that's capped cannot do that. They have a total amount, and that's all they've got to work with. If your total amount is $1 million, and that's all you can get as a PTEL county, if your social security goes up, or your liability insurance goes up, which we don't have any control over that whatsoever. I mean, we all pay insurance. We don't have control over that. We can't ask for it. That has to come out of that total dollar amount. We can't ask for more because we're capped. It caps everything.
Called spending more than you got.
It's more or less like being in agriculture, your expenditures are going up and revenues going down.
Revenues are flat.
Revenues are
We're on the
flat.
same boat.
Exactly.
And at the same token, everybody in the community, including me, and all of you sitting here, you want your roads in good shape. You want police protection top notch with today's world. You want an ambulance service that's gonna be there when you call them. I mean, all those things don't go away, they go up. So that's where it's a problem.
One question, I never have been here before, that's what, the library, why does it cost so much to run the library?
I can't answer that.
That was another referendum that was put on the ballot and people voted in. They have their own governing board that sets their levy. That levy's filed with the county clerk. So it's not something that we have any control over.
It's just given without any question.
Well, he said it was voted in.
It was
Well,
voted.
I understand, yeah,
It's
but as of
there.
now, I'm saying whatever they ask for, they get kind of.
Does everybody get a chance to vote on the library or just,
Oh, no. Well,
and a resident?
anybody that was in that library district, there's 2 library districts in the county. The Dongola Library District that gets taxes, and also Stinson Memorial Library District. So the people that were in that topographical area were the people that were allowed the chance to vote on that, whether they wanted that district or not.
So for example, Cobden residents don't contribute anything.
It's really almost all the county is what it is, except for the Dongola. They took in the whole county except for the Dongola Library District. And like I said, it was voted in by the people. The thing you have to do is exactly what you're doing here today, is go to your taxing districts, which are your biggest offenders, and I shouldn't say offenders, but your biggest districts that get your money are your school districts. Go to your school districts and your board members of your school districts and ask them why they need so much money. Because anywhere from 50 to 70% of your tax bill is for school districts. So those are the people that can make the big difference. And we all know that the state's not funding the schools. So the only place the schools have to go to is property tax to get additional money.
Terry, are the school districts limited?
Some are and some aren't.
Dongola is, I'm on there, we're about the same thing here, but.
Yeah, Dongola is done. It's funny because Dongola actually goes down into Alexander County also, in Pulaski County. But they annexed property in after PTEL was already in effect. So that they're still limited. So once you become limited, you can't annex into another county to become non-PTEL.
And they asked about the libraries, are they limited?
Yes, because that's all within the confines of the county. They are PTEL.
Anything else? If not, I'll ask for a meeting, or a motion to adjourn this meeting. And then we have a meeting coming up after this one.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's the place for it either, but if you can't answer, just tell me. But like in our Dongola district, We have a refuge established there. From what we're aware of, they pay very little property taxes on can you elaborate or tell us anything about that?
What,
Tammy?
what?
Yeah.
Well, when they buy up farmland, they bought thousands of acres.
You mean government property?
Yes, of
The Fish and
US.
Wildlife.
Yeah, they don't.
Do you get any revenue from the US Fish and Wildlife Service?
Now,
Mhm.
do you not all get some sort
It's
of
not
benefit
tax
from?
revenue, it's payment in lieu of tax.
Right.
Pilot, what they call it in most counties. They make a payment, and instead of paying tax, they make a payment to the taxing, to the governments in lieu of paying
You
taxes.
probably have no comparison though to, 40 acres that a landowner would pay on compared to 40 acres they would own.
We get about $90,000 a year from from the state forest.
Well, that's state forest,
It's less.
Right, I mean, that's significantly less.
Significantly less, the government's paying the county less than what you would pay if you owned that 40 acres.
And when they first came in, they used to put in the paper how much they did, they don't put in the paper anymore, I didn't know if they even give any more or not.
That's probably good indication.
They do, but it's a fraction of what local taxpayers will pay.
and then if that falls off their tax rolls, like in our small Dongola district, then one of us that are left get to pick up the slack.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah.
That's
But
one
they
thing.
also probably bring in people from, just kind of like what we were talking about before, they probably bring in people from other areas that then spend money in the community.
No, they tear houses down. They don't bring anybody in. They demolish the houses, right? Yeah. So,
And then you lose more tax base
That's right.
for these lost houses and barns and buildings and stuff that Tammy had an assessment on at one time.
Right.
I mean, that hurts our Dongola district being a small district anyway.
also hurts the schools.
Yes, hurts the schools and then it's back to the taxpayer to pick up the slack.
It hurts the taxing districts and it hurts the taxpayer too. Yeah, when that happens.
Government owned property, how nice.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. Feller?
Yes. She told me, I'm glad you told me. I'm glad you called because I had I know I can't stuff, and I got both of them out, and she did too, she done them up after you called.
I think
That was the top. I knew that was, why that was worth
Guys, thank you for coming, seriously, and I hope that we explained somewhat.